Deadly Love, Prologue. Looking across the horizon of the harsh and desolate land, where there shone no sunlight, nor creatures came, there appeared a tiny, almost unrecognisable movement of darkness. It had appeared from the moors of the gargantuan mountains that lay just beyond the horizon, stepping from those heights of gloom and despair onto a desert of pain, of sadness and remorse. In the living lands, you could expect to see a carrion bird overhead, searching for some pitiful beast to prey upon. But not here. Only one soul dared to call this plain home, and standing amongst towers and spires which cried longingly in the howling of the wind, which danced around the spires wallowing in their gloom, was where he chose to stand. The wind, like a playful partner, twisted uneasily around the figure, reluctantly exploring the cloak that wrapped around this lonely soul, to appear as though the elements themselves were agitated to be in the same proximity as the ferryman. He cared not, for he was now an outcast, alone in the hollow lands, in his temple that he had built, dedicated to the love that had been taken from his side. The darkness at the horizon that was coming his way were other ferrymen, charged with the duty of locating the renegade and capturing him so that he could be taken to the sands of judgment. It would be a long time still before they reached the temple. The figure standing amongst the towers turned away from their direction, dismissing them from his concern for the moment, to descend into the tower, walking down the cold stone steps until his feet led him into a familiar room. In the centre of that room, which lay open like a discontented fledgling, was a pool of dark water surrounded by flowers fashioned in stone, which had been chiselled to perfection by the occupant that stood before them now, chiselled by the endless tears he had cried in remembrance for his lost love. He called the room the Well of Sorrows, for the water in the pool was the tears that he had shed for her, and deep was the pool. Cloak approached the pool, kneeling beside it in reverence and running his left hand across the sculpture of his favourite rose. Melancholy hung in the air, thick and overbearing, as he contemplated how much she would have loved this rose. From within the dark-hooded features, tears of blood began to fall as Cloak wept, dripping rhythmically into the pool, forcing sound into the temple like an intrusive explorer, sending ripples across the surface in a tide of uncertain calm. Every now and then, like a voice on a distant breeze, Cloak would hear her voice in this room, haunting to his ears and rattling his soul. He would always cry out to answer her, for her to answer him, to guide him to her. And then when there was no answer, always he would break down and weep long, out of control, till his tears were spent. There was no echo of her voice today. The ferryman was unsure if that was a good sign, or rather a cold comfort. But he said a silent prayer for her, wherever she was now.